The things clients pay recruiters for is not just the CV, it's not just someone turning up, but it's about them finding someone to start in their business that's better than what they could have got themselves. And to this aim, the first thing you need to master when you first start in recruitment is what a good candidate is. Now, what a good candidate is will depend very much upon the nature of your client, the nature of your organisation's specialism, and how you aim to differentiate yourself from everybody else. What we're going to do is go through a little bit about why it's important to your success, how it helps you differentiate yourself, and then go through the 5 key drivers of candidate marketability. Knowing what a good candidate is absolutely critical for you to build strong relationships with your clients. If when your client gives you a specification or an outline of a person that they'd like to start in their organisation, and what you send them over email or talk to them about on the phone doesn't match that, your credibility is going to go from probably 0 to -20. The most difficult thing about determining what a great candidate is that each and every one of your clients will have a different view of what a good candidate is. However, the recruiter's view is very different from the client's often. The reason being is that we don't determine a great candidate just upon their skill set or whether we like their interpersonal skills. The 5 skill sets that is really important for us to consider is firstly, where is their location in terms of where they live and where are they happy to travel to? The reasons this is important is that the further your candidate will travel, the more vacancies and roles that you'll be able to put them forward to. An important thing for you to remember, however, is that you've got to be able to prove that they can turn up to the job, not just for the interview, but they can turn up every day. So as a rule of thumb, location generally means about an hour's of travel. If they can't prove that they've done more than an hour's of travel to and from work every day, I would have questions as to whether they're going to be able to commit to that long term. The second area that makes a good candidate is the realistic expectation in terms of the rate or the salary that they're looking for. If a candidate is looking for the same money that they were on yesterday, then if that's a fair rate before, then it's going to be a fair rate today. The challenges that come are when candidates are expecting a rate that's over and above their skill set would demand. This is where you need to manage a candidate's expectations. As a general rule of thumb, if a candidate's looking for somewhere between 5 and 10% pay rise, then there's not too much to worry about, assuming they've got a skill set that fits within that area. If they're looking for any more than sort of 15 or 20 or 30% pay rise, then you need to have serious concerns about whether the candidate's actually going to be able to achieve that. And your role as a consultant is to make sure that you work with a candidate to try and manage their expectations suitably. Failure to do this will mean when it really counts, you're going to get a candidate that's going to pull out of a vacancy for a rate that the market was probably never ever going to pay, but you're the one that's going to be left letting your client down with a bad reputation and no money to talk about that's on the board. The third area of candidate marketability is not only their technical discipline, but their soft skills. So the technical discipline refers to their level of qualification, but also what they do in their job day to day. So what are their system skills like? What are the technical attributes that make them successful? The important part of being a specialist is that you're able to differentiate one candidate from another candidate because you've seen many candidates that do those things. Even if you specialise in doctors, where you might think a GP is a GP, the reality is that they'll have a different set of skill sets depending on where they've worked, whether they've worked in a GP practice, whether they've worked in prisons, or whether they've worked in social care. From a soft skill perspective, you've got to be thinking about how do those skills that they've got technically and how do they actually deliver those in the business. More and more now, it's not just about your technical skills, but it's about how you can execute those skills within the business, whereby you build relationships with people. So asking people not just about what they do, but how have they taken what they do to the business in order to facilitate change. The more senior someone gets, the more important it is that they're able to take what they know and then translate that to people that aren't specialists in that area. The fourth area we're going to look at is about the candidate's ability to work in a certain type of organisation and willingness to do a certain type of role. We may be really up to date on what that candidate can do, but the most important thing in marketability is whether the candidate's still willing to do it. I generally work on a principle that if a candidate's looking to do 75% of their old job and 25% new and development type stuff, then they're a very marketable candidate because most people are going to look to hire someone that's going to want to progress. When that balance gets to 50-50, clients are going to be a bit more reticent to hire someone where they can't really do 50% of the job, and they're going to take time to be able to do that. When it gets to 25% old job and 75% new job, it's really unlikely you're going to get clients to do that. The only caveat on this is that in a really tight candidate market, clients are often forced to take candidates that can grow into roles rather than can do roles today. And that's all very well, but when a candidate wants a premium rate for a skill set that they've got to develop, challenges can happen. The fifth area is really about understanding and getting under the skin of the candidate's availability to work and really the urgency they have in getting to work. The reason this is important is that clients pay you not for an interview process or putting CVs forward, but they pay you for someone to turn up and do the job. And so the more likelihood of someone not turning up and doing that job not only means you put a whole load of effort in and not getting paid, you often ruin the relationship with a client as well. So when it comes to availability, you've really got to determine how likely is it that candidate's able to do that job. Very often you get candidates that ring you up and go, well, I can start as soon as possible. What you've got to do is ask them and say, well, could you start tomorrow? More often than not, a candidate will say, no, I can't do tomorrow because I've got to sort childcare. Or I can't do tomorrow because I've got a dentist. Or actually, in a week's time, I've got a holiday. So it's really important that you determine what day can a candidate actually turn up and start work. In disciplines and specialisms like the medical profession or social care, when you've got candidates that may have to work 24 hours a day or 7 days a week, it's really important that availability stretches not only to the day that they can work, but the shifts they're happy to work as well. Because not everyone's happy to work 5 in the evening to 3 in the morning on a short-term notice. And when it comes to desire to work, only you can judge as to whether that candidate really wants to work. The greater the need they have to get into work, the greater the likelihood that they're going to flex on location, rate, the technical skills that they've got, and the role that they're willing to consider. So let's quickly summarise on the 5 key drivers of candidate marketability. First thing, location. Where does the candidate live and where are they happy to commute to on an ongoing basis? Rate and salary. What rate do they want and how realistic is that against the market benchmark? When it comes to technical skills, don't just focus on the technical skills that they can do. Ask them how they've applied those to influence the business. Role and organisation is not about the job they can do, but where are they willing to do it and what type of organisation are they looking to do it in? And lastly, but not least, what is their urgency to get into work? The greater the level of urgency, the greater the level of flexibility they're going to have. So let's quickly summarise on the 5 key drivers of candidate marketability. First thing, location. Where does the candidate live and where are they happy to commute to on an ongoing basis? Rate and salary. What rate do they want and how realistic is that against the market benchmark? When it comes to technical skills, don't just focus on the technical skills that they can do. Ask them how they've applied those to influence the business. Role and organisation is not about the job they can do, but where are they willing to do it and what type of organisation are they looking to do it in? And lastly, but not least, what is their urgency to get into work? The greater the level of urgency, the greater the level of flexibility they're going to have.